Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. We are back after missing a week because of technical difficulties again, having a lot of them, trying to work through them. So I appreciate anybody and everybody that comes through this evening to be part of our book club with a special guest coming on in a few minutes. So please share the show and share it with somebody and invite people to come in. To this evening, we are going to be discussing our book club, current book that we're reading, and then talk about the next book we're reading and what the Ultimate Wellness Group Book Club has for you going into 2021. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I further bear witness that God came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, taught the man who wrote those two beautiful books behind me, How to Eat to Live, book 1 and 2. And of course, he has a body of knowledge that has done much for people all over the world. And this show is an example of that because of the people that are being touched by this show by the grace of God. And of course, the two of them didn't leave us alone. They left us with a man that is definitely helping us make it through these dark and difficult times that we're in. I'm speaking of Minister Louis Farrakhan. And in their names, I greet you in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Again, thank you for taking some of your time. I know it's been kind of erratic lately with the technical difficulties, but we're going to strive to make it through this and continue to bring you quality information, news that you can use. So again, share the show, invite somebody in, and let's get into it. 8 Electronics. Wa alaikum salam, my brother. I appreciate you coming in. Let me get this on so I can see the Facebook comments because for some reason those don't come in. Just a second, good people. Here we go. Okay, so we got Priscilla Timmons, Hadi Razak, Pamela Bashir, Linda Nzinga, of course, Erica, Daima Muhammad, and Priscilla B. I said Priscilla B. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you all for coming in. So I just wanted to real quickly lay a base for what we're going to discuss tonight, and then what is the reality of the Ultimate Wellness Group Book Club as we go forward, right? The reality is that it's one thing to listen to people speak. It's one thing for people to teach us, right? It's another thing when we hear people speak, hear people talk, and then we have the ability to go do our own research. I think that's the greatness of this book club, is that we read together, we discuss things, and we grow in our ability to empower ourselves and empower others around us. And so many of you have heard me say a young lady's name who was responsible for the book club when we first started reading Medical Apartheid. And I'm going to let her give some introductory comments about herself, but she is going to help me put this book club together. So it's going to be in her name. And while I say her name, I'm going to bring her in. We are talking about the famous Erica Perez, the
Greetings and
founder of the
peace.
Ultimate Wellness Group book, the Ultimate Wellness Group Book Club. So, Sister Erica, thank you. First of all, I will say she has been very supportive of me, my wife, and my family as we've been going through our difficult times. And she has also been inspired by the show. She's started reading How to Eat to Live. She's made some changes, she and her family.
Yes.
And so this has been a wonderful journey. When things happen like this, it makes me feel special that God is using me in that way. So I'm going to turn it over to you, sister. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about, all of the things like we talked about today. And then let's get into this book club, okay?
Absolutely. Oh, first of all, I want to thank you and give you honor and just for giving me the opportunity to be of service in this way. I you could say kind of by default, I'm a daughter of two terrific immigrants. My father being Afro-Honduran, my mother being of Costa Rican indigenous heritage, came to the United States, met here. My mother being an educator, putting in and instilling in us a hunger of learning.
Yes.
My mom literally read to me in the womb. So the result is somebody, as you can see, I'm wearing my tag. I'm actually taking a break. I'm a supervisor at the University of Tampa Library, and I'm literally in what we call the library graveyard. These are where the books get discharged and are donated when we get new books. So I do this professionally.
Yeah.
I have worked as an educator and also as a library professional for 14 years. I also, about 3 years ago, I also got a degree in counseling and human services. I have a great love and passion for education, for books, but I stand on the backs and the legacy of a family where illiteracy was the norm. My grandmother was illiterate. My father got an 8th grade education. Being of African ancestry in Latin America, you don't get the same opportunities that people that maybe might be my complexion fair get.
Right.
And so I grew up with this my mother's amazing. And, from a very young age, exposed us to lots of cultures, would take us to museums and libraries. And some of my fondest memories as a family, because we didn't have a lot of money, was going to the public library. And my father teaching me about topography and maps and watching Nova and shows like scientific shows growing up. My mother was the literacy and that piece. A lot of educators on my mom's side of the family, but there's a lot of illiteracy and just poverty in many ways on my father's side. But richness in culture. Yes. I actually didn't learn English until I was 5. So if I get words wrong, I say them wrong in Spanish instead of English, or you see me kind of pause because I'm translating in my head. The only place I speak English is at work, and but I just have a great love for our people, Black, brown, red people, poor people. And anytime I can be of service, I want to be of service, because it is not that far removed where I had a grandmother literally had memorized the Bible. She didn't want me to know she couldn't read. And I didn't find out when she passed at 98 that she didn't know how to read. I found out from a cousin of mine, and I'm like, wow, she memorized it. Memorized. My father, who, was not one to pick up a book, but took the time educationally to show us what he knew, and exposed us to sciences and math and things like that, because that was his forte. He always told us that if he had the opportunity, he would have been an engineer. So, but he kept that legacy, and carrying that, I stand on the backs and I stand on the legacy of a people that didn't get a chance to learn, to go to school. They didn't get a chance to, we're literally, our history of our people, we were banned from reading, so we couldn't learn.
That's right.
And for me, working as a library professional, as an educator, that's my contribution, because I got the opportunity to do what, I not just to do what I wanted to do, but what I have to do. This is personal for me.
Yes.
I've worked as an educator with children recently because of the pandemic. I actually was teaching a class in public housing for adult literacy, which were people over the age of 65. So, this, just sharing with you my passion, my love. I always wanted to join a book club. You'd think I would have joined one by now, but one thing that a lot of book clubs, especially for the ladies, it's a lot of drinking. I know that sounds funny, but I don't drink. I like being sober-minded, but I'm passionate, and I wanted to find something with health and wellness, and to find you, Dr. Keeley, this community. This is community, and to be able to come together and to share ideas. I'm really excited. Dr. Keeley, if I may share with the group just a quick few points that we talked about in our conversation. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Hold on just a second, though, because I want to say
hold on.
before you go to that. So look, you all, you can see the passion in Sister Etika. And again, she was the one that came up with the idea. and you can see that her passion is going to be infectious, right? And so she's about to go into the conversation that she and I had earlier today. We've been emailing each other back and forth. Proud Papa, thank you for coming in. Wa alaikum salam. And a few more shout outs, and we're going to get back into Sister Erica telling Alfred T. Muhammad, Charles Muhammad, Priscilla, I said you already, Sister James Williams, Samika Wallace, Samuel Raynor, Rashid Muhammad, Khalila Muhammad, Sister Queen, Daniel 12 Guzman, and Ali Muhammad. I thank all of you for coming in. And I'm going to give it back over to Erica so she can talk about what we're going to do starting in 2021, what we're going to do to finish the year, but also going into 2021. And this is not, again, as we have had our discussions, it's not a dictatorship. We want you all to add your thoughts, add your books as we go through, talking about some of the different things that we want to do. Add your ideas. I just think it was just a wonderful idea that somebody that was so passionate that learned about the show and came in and, heard about the first book and just started running. And then you see that her ability is, I think, great. And I think it's going to take the book club to a whole nother level. So go ahead and give us a couple of ideas that we talked about. And for the reality is that most of them are your ideas. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due.
Thank you. I also wanted to say just peace and greetings to everyone that's come on here as well.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, I really want this to be a community experience. My background and expertise, just honing on those skills. I've got the aspect of, organizing a book club. Like I was speaking with Dr. Akili, I've worked with children and youth, and I've done book clubs with them. This will be my first time with adults and more adult themed books. But either way, the structure of running a book club is pretty similar, just from the research I've done so far, and I'm going to be researching more. There was a lot of things we talked about. Dr. Keeley, regarding the end of the year, I know right now we're reading the book Vaccines, Are They Safe and Effective by Neil. His last name escapes me.
Miller's Neil Miller.
Miller. I know it was Neil Z something.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And so we had spoken because we discussed a lot of things. Were we going to be reading the book about and I'm going to say it wrong in Spanish. You got to tell me the one about Themira, because in Spanish it's Themira Sol, and I'm going to say it wrong.
Yeah. Here's what we're discussing. Thimerosal.
Thimerosal. Yes. Yeah. So for the to close out the end of the year, we're going to be reading Thimerosal. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Kind of. Okay. I'm going to work on that. It just goes so contrary to Spanish.
Right.
So please forgive me, everyone. I'm trying here. But let the science speak. I got that part right.
Yes.
And that particular book is going to be the next one. We're going to be closing out the end of the year, December. For the new year, and I'm so excited, July 1st, we're going to be launching the Ultimate Wellness Group Book Club, its own, I guess it may be a Facebook page, or that hasn't been something that has been completely solidified, as I just had a conversation yesterday with Dr. Q. So this is a work in progress.
Yes.
By the way, if anybody has any suggestions for me, you can, Dr. Keeley, I don't know what's the best way for people to give ideas to us. I mean, if it's on your page, on my page, add me on Facebook. Erica, ERIKAL, I believe Perez is, or PEREZ should be on there. But you can follow me from the links on the on today's conversation, because I left the comment there.
Yeah, we can post your page on there, and then they can do it either way. I mean, let's
people know please add me on Facebook.
Let's communicate and get our ideas out and keep making it happen.
Please.
Yes, ma'am.
For right now, I mean, there isn't like a dedicated email for the book club. That's something that, again, it's a work in progress, and we can talk about what will be the best thing to do. But my personal email that I can always forward to Dr. Keeley is ELPEREZ elperez33@gmail.com. That's elperez33 and I'll post it in the Facebook comments as well, from right now. So
Yeah.
that's my personal primary email. I respond to it, I check it often, and anything that if I can also forward it or find a way to forward it to Dr. Akili, because I am learning more about being more tech savvy and learning in that area as well. But for the new year, January 1st, I am so excited. You don't understand. Like, there's nothing more than I love them books. Love it, love it, love it. That's why I decided to work in the library field and as an educator and literacy awareness, all ages. We need to read more in general and as a Black, brown, and red people. I think, and I know I had said this yesterday to Dr. Keeley, but it's like, television, however you want to call it, I call it television. We need to read. We need to read.
Yeah.
Plus, neurologically, for us, working out our brain is super important. Super important. So, think about it as, working out our brains when we read, and keeping that sharp. But the one thing that really attracted me to the Ultimate Wellness Group was How to Eat to Live. I can tell you, I haven't even been following it for 7 months. I've lost over 20 pounds, and I'm not even trying. It's just eating the navy bean, whole food, fruits, vegetables. I used to eat 3 meals. Now I'm only eating 2, and I never thought I could do that. I fast once a week, and
Wow.
I'm learning more and more, doing it little by little. But I've lost weight to the point where my doctor's like, "How did you do it?" And I'm like, How to Eat to Live. People at my job have commented. People that don't even know me have commented. And I told them How to Eat to Live, and I point them to that. So I'm just so thankful and just grateful for this beautiful books. There's volume 1 and 2, which I find interesting. There's 2 volumes. It's not one book. There's 2 volumes.
That's right.
So that's just kind of peaks. When anytime there's more than 1 volume, that means that there's a lot to be said. Plus, also the printings and the final call that I have a digital subscription to, and it's just been such a blessing in my life. I'm sorry, I'm talking on, and I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just exploding with information. Anyhow, January 1st, 2021, starting the book club. We're going to be reading How to Eat to Live, volumes 1 and 2. Don't know the time frame. But we're going to be reading them. I would love to have like a challenge as well, where we're going to be also instituting, I'm having a Spanish moment, sorry. Applying what we're learning to our lives. It doesn't have to be a lot, just little nuggets here and there. I'm telling you, I did it, and I never thought I was going to be able to fast, ever. Never have fasted in my life. And in all honesty, I have tried fast before, and it just didn't come to pass. I would always sneak and act like I did it. I'm being real transparent, y'all. I did a real fast.
Yes.
That after when I got past 24 hours, I was like, "Oh, I did it!" And it was to How to Eat to Live. And you do feel better. I thought I was gonna feel bad. The next day, I felt like I could float on air.
Right.
Like I was I felt light and good. So, just little things and working on that. We can share ideas as a community. I was thinking we could even start sharing recipes, tips. How did you start fasting, or what worked for you? After that, other books we're going to, Dr. Akili and I talked about, Laylo Africa book. The African Holistic Reading is one we're going to want to look at. Also, some of the books from Dr. Wesley Muhammad, the great part of the research team of the NOI.
Yes.
Amazing work. I mean, as a scholar, listen, if I can be a tenth of what he has done, I mean, I've been published in history books before. I have one of my bachelor's degrees is in history. I've been published, and I thought that was a big deal. But this man is a breath. He is a walking library.
Yes.
Literally. And he's just getting started. Would love to read the Pot Plot, looking at that.
That one's going to take a while. That's pretty thick, man.
Ooh,
That's yeah.
that's a lot of
There's a lot of
knowledge.
good information in that book, though. Yes.
Yeah, and then from then, I want to hear what you all want to read. What are your suggestions?
Right.
One tool I have learned a little bit about is doing the Google surveys. That's one way that we can assess, and other ways, and even tech wise. Please send me your suggestions. I really want to do the best job possible, and I'm a student. Like I am just sitting under you all. Like I want to learn and do the best that I can, because this is life-giving information. This show is life-giving. Dr. Kiwi's knowledge is life-giving, and everyone here has knowledge in something. Yes. Everyone is an expert on themselves, and we're all in a process of learning, because we as a people were attacked. We're separated from everything, and the chance to learn about health and ourselves is just monumental. So my hope is that the bookshelf ends up looking like that one day, of all the things we've read, right. Suggestions, you know, but these are books we're actively reading, and or also digitally. And there's a lot of things that, just given the field I'm in, I'm always going to be in, around, or at, or teaching at a school, library, university. I love it. This is my life, and I just want to grow. So there's opportunity for me to grow and serve.
Yes,
and I'm just grateful. So
yeah.
get the y'all. I know y'all probably laughing. Oh boy, the mirror saw. This is what happens when you get a bilingual person. Pero ya tú sabes, yo puedo hablar español. Okay,
yeah, right. We have to learn that Spanish too. Yes. But I'm so thankful for you, Sister Erica Perez. I really am. I'm thankful for the effort you've put into this point, and I pray that everybody understands how important this is. I know, a lot of people tell me, Keely, why don't you cut your show shorter? And you're trying to get people to read stuff, and people don't read. Well, the reaction that you all just saw from Sister Erica and her being exposed to the show tells me that, you don't have to give in to some of these ideas that we should go and try to, I would say, shrink ourselves because of the way the society has made us not want to learn and not want to read and want to have something in a small soundbite. Well, we have to start offering the opportunity for people to be thirsty to learn, because that's the way we combat some of the stuff that I'm about to get into in just a minute. So, Sister Erica, you and I will continue to work on this and make it. I know it's going to be beautiful. I know it's going to be powerful. The pages that we do, more than likely on Facebook and whatever else we decide to do, is going to be interactive. It's going to be about us working and people, posting their testimonies and posting, like she said, recipes and all those type of things. But most importantly, it's going to be staying true to what it is that we're reading, being interactive, and making sure that we're all learning and we're all growing and we're all able to take this information and apply it, right? Because you all hear me say all the time, news that you can use. I'm not interested in us being in a book club so we can sound smart and talk big words and see who has the greatest vocabulary and all those type of things. What I want to do is have people leave with a passion, saying that, okay, I learned something that can change my life, improve my life, improve the life of the people around us. And as a community, as Sister Erica is talking about, the black, brown, and the red, we start to unify. And our unity is going to be more powerful than any atomic bomb and any threat that's coming against our communities.
That's right.
And so that, to me, is the purpose of this book club. It's paramountly important to me. And I think Sister Erica is a blessing from Allah to help make it happen. And I might add, this last point is, Sister Erica told me today that she's a Christian. It was never important in our interaction and our comments before that we were, texting and talking to each other. But I think it's interesting because this is the proof how we don't have to allow any artificial barriers from stopping us in making progress. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
let's add our ideas, you all, as we get you the information on how to share, where to share, and even tonight, if you want to share some ideas, that's what tonight's show is about.
Yeah.
Mostly about the book club. We are gonna do a little review of this book in a few minutes, and then of course, I would like for you all, everybody interested, get the book. And you know, another thing that Erica Perez suggested that we're going to do is there'll be some I guess like some challenges and some games and giving away free books
Yes.
and all those
Mhm.
type of things to make sure that we have, you know, it's not an incentive for foolishness, right? It's an incentive for us all to say, okay, let me get involved. Let me make sure I carve out my time every day to read my few pages. It's all going to be very doable. These readings, like this one
Mhm.
right here, is only 173 pages, right? And so we'll be able to finish that before the end of the year with
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
than 5 pages a day if we start tonight.
Mhm.
And so again, Sister Erica, I'm going to get into the rest of the show, but thank you. I
Yes.
wanted you all to see the person that initiated the book club, the one that's going to be working on the book club. So how great it is. You're looking at the sister that's going to involve with all of us, are going to make it a beautiful thing for us all to enjoy, to grow, and be able to work on how we as a unity are going to change this world. Okay, so sister, I thank you for taking some of your time.
Yes, I just
I
wanted
know
to
you're
mention
at
one
work
quick
and
thing.
you sacrificed to do this, so
Yeah.
thank you very much.
I just want to mention one really quick thing.
Yes,
though.
ma'am.
One thing that I really want, I want to do a module or a series or however it is on mental health and
Absolutely.
wellness.
Yes.
That is paramount because I want and I'm divulging information that is I'm being transparent because I want everyone to hear me. My family plagued by mental health issues, and as a result of that, people self-medicating, drugs, alcohol. I had a tough upbringing. But when I tell you mental health is something that it is in our hands to break that stigma.
Yes.
And not only that, mental health, being able to have a conversation and say, you know what, I'm going to go see a counselor, a therapist, because and this is one thing it talks about in How to Eat to Live. And please forgive me if I'm getting this. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the mind and the body. If your thoughts are not on point, the food you're eating,
That's
it's
right.
like you did nothing.
Absolutely.
Getting this right, just because I can't see it, mental health and making that's optimum, it's like treating any other illness. Mental health is health. That's why it says health. And I really feel very passionate about doing something with that, especially because we are in a pandemic.
Yes.
And I really want any and all ideas. Again, thank you. And just anything, all come my way. And I just look forward to growing. Thank you. Thank you for that. I had to get that one out because
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
that's affecting my
powerful.
life. So
yes, ma'am. That's powerful.
yes.
So thank you very much, Sister Erica. I'll
Thank
talk to you soon.
You too.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye, everyone. I'll be on there.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So what a beautiful experience, you all. You know, I'm so humbled because for her to, you know, give those compliments and talk about how the show affected her and her family. I mean, it's been pretty amazing. But I just wanted to mention a couple things on her last point about mental health. I had a conversation today with a lady who lost 2 of her sons in a very short period of time, and that's what she was talking about. She was talking about the abuse that happened when she was a child, and the way that she went to alcohol and drugs and other things, and got a powerful show coming up. You know, we have to have these conversations. We can't keep hiding our embarrassment because it's turning into generational curses. You know, so she and I were having a conversation about losing a child, and you know, my wife and I are still struggling with it. I got my report card from my wife today. Yeah, it's not funny. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. But you know, I pretty much have gotten an F, failed. But I'm not going to stop trying. I'm going to keep doing everything that I can to support my wife. and my family as we continue to heal. It's probably the toughest thing I've ever been through. Certainly she would say it's the toughest thing she's ever been through. So those of you who continue to send your positive statements, your beautiful statements, your prayers and all that, we appreciate it, because we still are a work in progress. And of course, got a lot more work to do. So let me give a few shout outs and then we're going to get to the rest of the show. And what I would like to do is ask you all that are on the show today to please give your vote if you're interested in whether or not we should do How to Eat to Live in January, or should we do something mental health based in January? Because of course we're going through a difficult time, and suicides are up, divorce is up, violent acts are up. All of these things are going up because of the stress that this situation is putting on people, including what we just finished going through with the election. This is stressing people out, right? And so I want to hear from you all. What do you think would be your suggestion for January when we officially start this book club? Should it be mental health? Should it be How to Eat to Live? I believe mental health is included in How to Eat to Live, but you all understand what I mean when I say that. So a few shout out: Sean Seals, Christine Crowder, Cornelius Muhammad, Charles X. Moore, William Solomon, Dwayne Muhammad, David Tonsall, Sister Queen, Bobby Supremo, Chikoye, Stora Wu Toussaint Fulton, Tawana, thank you for coming in. Hadiq Razak, yes indeed. Ali Thompson, Lewis Simmons, George Allen, Edward Jones. Thank you all for coming on, and thank you for your comments. So, as we go along, you all give me your vote, okay? So we are doing what the community would like to see going into January. I'm going to go through a few of the points in this book, and I just kind of want to give a kind of backdrop before I do that. We started with medical apartheid, right? And medical apartheid, for those of you who did read or those of you who didn't, medical apartheid is a book that talks about Black people's difficulty in the medical system and the way we've been experimented on, the way that we have been mistreated by a system that poses itself as trying to do us good, pose themselves as a philanthropic process for us, and many times we're being murdered and taken into deep diabolical perversion of what medicine is supposed to be. And so, while we're reading that book, the pandemic is getting worse. The idea of this vaccine is starting to pick up a momentum. And so we decided to move into this book because I thought this book was excellent at giving some information on vaccines in a way that's easy for everyday people to understand. It's not like real deep in a lot of medical terminology. There is medical terminology, but it's not real deep so that we can understand it. But I thought it was a good foundation to get a good idea of what it is that in traditional medicine, of course, is not discussed very much. This is a man who's not in the medical field, but he did an excellent job of research. And as I've said to a lot of you, I've read this before, and going back and reading it again just helps me understand, and also helps me connect all of the research that I've done since I read this book, because I think I read this book 2004, 2005, something like that. It was quite a while ago. So Eighth Electronics, you say How to Eat to Live should be the foundation. Okay. Proud Papa says mental health. 35 Esmond Street, LLC. Thank you for coming in. I want to know your opinion on what we should do if they try to force vaccinate us with this new world agenda they are trying to implement. Yes, sir. I'm going to get to that as soon as we finish reviewing this book. So please stay tuned, and I'd like to know if you what you think. James, I believe that we can do both How to Eat to Live and mental health. Yes, sir. Linda and Zinga, 50% of the homeless are mentally ill. That's right. Absolutely. Okay, so we got a couple of votes, right? And then we got a question that I definitely will come back to. So if you all don't mind, let me get into a few things in the book. Vaccines, are they really safe and effective, right? And you see there it says a parent's guide. So this guy really did it to try to help parents educate themselves. And then when you go into the medical place, you are more educated and able to make a more qualified decision on whether or not the information that's being presented to you is legitimate or not, right? So on page 13, in the preface, second paragraph, it says, some studies show that the disease is more likely to be contracted by those who are vaccinated against it than those who are left alone. Down at the bottom, it says, organized medical profession was granted a legal monopoly on healthcare. And it's talking about, more the historical reality of medicine, including the World Health Organization, American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Federal Centers for Disease Control, and the Food and Drug Administration. These organizations in general, we consider that they are promoting good health, right? But down here he says these are organized medical profession that was granted a legal monopoly on healthcare. It has stifled dissenting individuals within and outside the profession from making their warnings known. And, that's why you all hear me say things like, people that discuss things like myself aren't welcomed, because the average medical professional, I think, is ignorant to most of these things that we're discussing. And so when they hear some things that I say, it makes you have to start questioning everything, like I did when I first started hearing this information. So it's not necessarily that it's not true. It's just that a lot of people don't want to hear what's going to make them have to reevaluate, reassess everything that they think they know, right? Page 14. On the other hand, few parents are prepared to arrive at their own conclusions regarding the vaccine decision. They tenaciously, almost religiously trust their doctors and pediatricians, right? You all have heard me say that before, how people trusted me with their life. And that's what a lot of you have done. And you've been disappointed. That's what a lot of people in general do on a regular basis. And they're just not satisfied with what they're getting, right? So they are afraid to ask questions or to even consider all of their options. And sometimes don't even know they have options. Many parents are simply unwilling to take responsibility for health-related decisions, but parents are ultimately responsible for their own health and the health of their children. And as I have said to you all, when I have stood in front of some of these mothers that were telling me what vaccines did to their children, at first, it was very difficult for me to believe, because I was a vaccinator. I was a pro-vaccine person, made that way from medical school, right? But I had to take it in consideration because I could tell that these mothers weren't lying. So yes, you have a responsibility to be educated because of the decisions, not only that you're making for yourself, but especially children when we're talking about vaccines, right? Priscilla B. Simmons says mental illness. Christine Crowder, I believe that both are important issues. Yes. Sharon Soldier, thank you for coming in, my bro. Sister Queen, How to Eat to Live should be the umbrella that subtitles mental health. Yes, ma'am. Charles Knight, thank you for coming in. Okay, so we're going to have to tally up the vote, y'all. And that's what it's going to be. Whatever the vote is, we're going to go with, okay? And just understand that, whatever the vote is, we'll do whatever the vote gets. And in the next month or after we finish that reading, then we'll go into the next book, okay? So we're going to get it in. We just have to make sure that, what we are doing is relative. You're interested, we stay plugged in. So we do this as a group. Okay. Here is what page am I on? 18, second paragraph. Natural polio virus produces no symptoms at all in over 90% of the people who are exposed to it. I wanted to mention that because, as I've said before, and if you all are looking at the statistics, 90% of people that get the COVID infection are resolving, right? Some with severe symptoms, some with mild symptoms, but 90%, mid to high 90%, depending on the world or United States, are recovering from it, right? And so as we go back and we look at a lot of these other diseases that weren't decreased by vaccines, were decreased by things that were happening in the infrastructure of this country and other countries. So those are the things that help us make the right decision and don't fall into the traps, right? Sister Mika, thank you for coming in, sister. Okay, what's next? And if you all have any comments, let me know. I see Daisy Muhammad voted for How to Eat to Live, so I appreciate that. Page 23. I hope you all are not getting bored with going through some of this information, because I think it's very important for us to put all of these things together, right? In page 22, I'm sorry, in the bottom part of the paragraph, where the heading is diet, it says relationship between polio and an excessive consumption of sugars and starches. The highest per capita consumption of sugar had the greatest incidence of polio. Serious calcium deficiency precedes polio. Malnutrition, right? We talk about that a lot. America is very malnutritious. Page 23. I'm going to read the last two paragraphs on that page. Researchers have always known that polio strikes with its greatest intensity during the hot summer months. Dr. Sandler observed that children consume greater amounts of ice cream, soda pop, and artificially sweetened products in hot weather. In 1949, before the polio season began, he warned the residents of North Carolina through the newspapers and radio to decrease their consumption of these products. During that summer, North Carolinians reduced their intake of sugar by 90%, and polio decreased in the state in 1949 by the same amount. The North Carolina State Health Department reported 2,498 cases of polio in 1948, and 229 in 1949. Imagine that. Improved eating improves your ability to fight disease and to fight infections, right? Here's an interesting thing in the next paragraph, though. Rockefeller Milk Trust. Rockefeller, most of us have heard of that power name in America, right? Which sold frozen products to North Carolinians, combined forces with the Coca-Cola power merchants and convinced the people that Sandler's findings were a myth and the polio figures a fluke. Why is that important? Let me pull this up real quick and show you. Well, actually, I'm going to do that in a minute. Sister Leroy, thank you for coming in. Glad to finally make it on. Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you coming in. Charles X votes for mental health. Priscilla says, what do you think about allergy shots and why do doctors recommend those? Excellent question. Priscilla, please remind me at the end of the show to make sure I answer that question and my other brother's question about the forced vaccination, okay? I want to get through this and then we'll come to those questions. That is a very good question because it's associated to some degree with immunizations. Here's a statement on page 27. Diet. The New England Journal of Medicine recently published an article indicating that giving vitamin A to children with measles reduces the likelihood of complications and their chances of dying. And I hope that we all understand, as I have talked about on many of occasions, that anytime you're talking about any type of vitamin or any type of nutrient that we need to get, the best place to get it is from a natural source, which is going to be the correct food, right? Page 35, post-vaccinal encephalitis may be the greatest cause of developmental and learning disabilities in the country today. As I have said on many programs, if you go back and you do your own personal research on immunizations, autism was pretty much unheard of before immunizations. Mental retardation went up, learning disabilities went up, violence and so-called these ADHD children went up. All of those things started to go in a very, right, in medicine, we look at things on a curve. And when things start to do like this, they're increasing on that curve, right? So the bottom would be incidence and over here would be time. As time goes, bottom would be time and incidence would be over here. And so as time is going on, these incidents of problems are going up. There's so many things that are tied to immunizations. And the problem a lot of times when we have discussions like this is that the people say, well, there's no science to back what you're saying. Well, there's no science to back that immunizations are solving any medical problems. No science whatsoever. It's all speculation and garbled public health information. But at the end of the day, if something is happening so often and if things are associated, it is our duty as everyday people to educate ourselves to believe or not whether it is something that we consider legitimate or not, right? I think it should be something more than just we go to a doctor and get their perspective. There are sometimes the influence in medical schools, the influence in doctors' offices, the influence in so-called health experts when they say things to doctors and they just take it for face value because they don't have the ability to go do the research or to get in depth into that type of information for themselves. And so it's important for all of us to make sure that we are part of that unit, right? And that is why I think a show like this is so important, because you all's questions, your ideas, your input is how I learn as well. Your questions keep me on point, making sure I'm up on my information. Make sense? Erica Perez, Kiera LaShawn. Thank you, my sister, for coming in. Oh, good. Erica Perez is taking track of the votes. So there you all go. We're gonna have we'll have the election results very soon. It's not gonna take a whole week. All right, page 43. The medical industrial complex attempted to skew the results by excluding areas where their findings didn't agree with the conclusions they sought. This is something that I have spoken on many times. You know, I go and I do my research on some of these studies. And, you know, like I talked about the prostate study that supposedly have been done to prove that Black men have more prostate cancer than any other race of people. Those studies were so poorly done, and I shouldn't say poorly, they were horribly done, that every conclusion that the medical community says about Black men having more prostate cancer, Black men having a higher incidence of prostate cancer than other races, and that Black men die from prostate cancer more than other people, those are all lies, because the studies never proved that. The studies were horribly done. The funding was taken from these studies, and these people just continued in these studies as if what changed after the money source changed, that wasn't highly affecting the outcomes. And so to say that all of those things I just said about Black men and associated with prostate cancer, none of that has been proven. And so again, Dr. Keeley's not saying that prostate cancer is not a problem in Black men, because it is. But the statistics that they typically use to talk about prostate cancer in Black men are not accurate, because the studies have never proven what they claim. Okay. And that is just another example how the money trail is usually what dictates what comes out of a study. I've seen it on many occasions. Shaolin Soldier, I don't know what you're talking about, what you're laughing at, bro, but I know you got something coming. This brother right here asked some tremendously great questions. So we're on page 47 now. These illnesses may be considerably more serious than the original disease, involving deeper structures and more vital organs. Other researchers have identified an actual lowering of the body's resistance resulting from vaccinations. They warn us about the probability of widespread and unrecognized vaccine-induced immune system malfunction. They also note that this effect is often delayed, indirect, and masked, its true nature seldom recognized. You know, I talk about this all the time. If we're putting food additives in our body and we're eating foods that we haven't totally looked at the ingredients to find out what we're putting in our body, how many of us will eat this food or have these vaccines and do certain things, and then 20 or 30 years down the line, you come to the conclusion, man, it was those chips or that food or those brands of things that I was doing for all the years, these shots that I took as a child. It is an absolute admittance of this government and their vaccine program that SB 40 was an actual cancer promoting germ that was in the polio vaccine. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us about that. He warned his members of the Nation of Islam to not take the polio virus. So, it's not like totally insane for us to come to some of these conclusions that these immunizations could potentially cause serious problems down the line. Oh, Sheldon laughing at the election results coming here, sir, my brother. Who we have? Almighty Moreland. I'm only 24 and all the prostate propaganda has been scaring me as of late. It's funny you talked about that. Yes, sir. First of all, thank you for coming in the show. And secondly, if you get a chance, my brother, on YouTube and on Facebook, I have a program that I did on the prostate. So please, if you can, check it out. Let me know what you think. And if there's anything that I can do to help you remove that fear, right? I did a program earlier today. If you all get a chance, you haven't seen it, go to the program that I did earlier today. It is on my Facebook page, Akili Graham Muhammad. But I talked about how fear is so inundated in the regular everyday lifestyle of so many people, right? And we have to get away from that. So this is not, throwing any shade at you, brother, Almighty Moreland, but it is about your comment. The prostate propaganda has been scaring you. I want you to be informed so that that fear is removed, and now you're making decisions based on knowledge. Okay. So thank you for that comment, because, sometimes we are a little fearful of putting a comment that is as honest and true as yours. So thank you for the comment, my brother. Dale Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Next statement. This is 47 again. The immune system. Several researchers have noted that vaccines merely trick the body into focusing on only one aspect, antibody production, of the many complex and integrated strategies normally available to the immune system. Diseases contracted naturally or ordinarily filtered through a series of immune system defenses, meaning that the immune system in the human body that was made by God is so intricate. It has so many different aspects. It breaks down these infections in such a minutia and evaluates every single aspect of it, right? You all have heard me talk about that since we've been on this coronavirus thing. Diseases contracted naturally or ordinarily filtered through a series of immune system defenses. But when the vaccine virus is injected directly into the child's bloodstream, it gains access to all the major tissues and organs of the body without the body's normal advantage of a total immune response. Antibodies, the T lymphocytes that do respond to the invading vaccine germs, become committed to those germs and are unable to react to other challenges to the health of the child. Meaning that the immunization ideology as a foundation is not a bad one, but the way that we do it in the hands of these billion-dollar companies that don't really have our health as the primary concern is in an abnormal way. It doesn't do the same thing as your beautiful God-given immune system does. Okay. Shaolin Soldier, what are your thoughts on RNA interference with vaccines? Do you think that the dietary lifestyle can help in terms of detoxifying or building cellular structures to be stronger? Told you all he was coming with a good question. I'm gonna get to that in just a second. Okay, I'm gonna answer all the questions. I got about 2 or 3 more comments out the book, and we're gonna get to your questions because I think they're beautiful questions. Magic City Flavors Cooking Lab. Exactly. I've been teaching for 17 years, and now most of the male students who come to me have some form of autism. Hey, there you go. And I would be willing to bet that for the 17 years that you have been teaching, that probably every child that you see that has some abnormality has been vaccinated. I would almost venture to guess that would be actual facts. So thank you for the comment. So here, this is the last few comments, brothers and sisters. And again, those of you who may just come in, we just finished reading this book, Vaccines, Are They Really Safe and Effective, right? We are formulating information. We are formulating a track record of being able to understand a little more about this vaccine, this COVID vaccine that is coming down the pike, and whether or not we're going to take it or not, right? So here is page 50. Information on the 7 Central African countries most infected with AIDS: Zaire, Zambia, Tanzania, Uganda, Malawi, Rwanda, and Burundi precisely matches who? The World Health Organization figures indicating the number of people vaccinated. Brazil, the only South American country included in the smallpox campaign, has the greatest incident of AIDS on that continent. And I don't know if you all have heard, but Minister Farrakhan talked about going to Africa and meeting with a lot of different countries. And I believe it was in Kenya where he met with a doctor that was over the whole vaccination program. And she was talking in a proud way of how many of their population had been vaccinated. And at the time that this woman was talking about this vaccination, AIDS death and the mortuary business was the fastest growing business in that part of the country. So, you know, we can't trust everything that's coming out of these so-called philanthropic people, right? And that was I think the major point that we took away from reading Medical Apartheid. I hope you all agree. Page 51. In 1981, the CDC reported that 4% of those receiving the hepatitis vaccine were AIDS infected. In 1984, the CDC acknowledged that the true figure is 60%. By 1987, they refused to give out any figures at all. Just another statement on how these organizations that a lot of times we just come to assumption, the FDA, the CDC, the NIH, AMA, the NMA, these organizations, we a lot of times automatically just put our switch on. Well, these people are looking out for us. Medical Apartheid and a lot of other things that we have discussed, these have been some of the organizations that have experimented on us in the worst, most nefarious, and for longer periods of time than anything else. Okay, so we have to look at this information, ingest it, absorb it, think about it, look at the different things that have happened to us, and be very careful in decisions that we make with these things that are supposedly good for our health that are coming down the pike. All right. Last quote is on page 64. And, you know, you have a lot of people in the medical community that are, you know, defending vaccines that talk about the fact that there is not much money in it. And that's because these people don't know how to find the money trail. Here's one statement about that. The amount of tax on each vaccine corresponds to the anticipated funds needed to pay for injuries or deaths resulting from that vaccine. So when we talk about the vaccine adverse event reporting system, VAERS, and we talk about the fact that the vaccine companies are immune from being sued. And we talk about the billions of dollars that have been paid to people whose children are injured from vaccines. Those three entities that I just mentioned should lead to a lot of speculation, right? So, you know, that's why we're reading this. I forgot. No, there's one more. Authorities also argue that parents should vaccinate their children to protect society as a whole from epidemics. But if the vaccines offer true immunity, only the unvaccinated would become ill. Therefore, decisions that affect your child's health should not be forced upon you by so-called experts who are not even willing nor able to take responsibility for their actions. That's definitely relative to what I just finished saying, because if there are billions of dollars that have been paid out to families because of the damage that has been done to their children, the question that you have to answer, the question that I have to answer, the question that we have to mull is, why would this government be taxing vaccines and then using a percentage of that money to pay people that are injured from the vaccine? That doesn't sound like something that we don't need to investigate more, or at least start to wonder, why would somebody put that type of a system together? Why would somebody put together a system where the people who are producing these vaccines and pushing them out into the public as if they're so necessary, why would you be immune to being sued if another arm of your entity, the vaccine entity, is paying out money to those who have been injured by vaccines, right? I think those are some some serious questions that we should be asking, and some serious answers that maybe we'll never get. Raymond Rogers, thank you for coming in. Daryl Muhammad said that was Zimbabwe. Z Kazim, thank you for coming in. Daryl Muhammad, thank you for that correction, bro. Zimbabwe, yes, sir. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just show this one more time. This is the next book that we will be reading, you all. And of course, look at the progression of what I think is being inspired, right? We read Medical Apartheid, kind of gives us a harrowing look at what has happened to Black people in this medical system in this country, all over the world. And then we read a book that gives us a little more information, scientific information on how we can take these things and think about them a little more. And then we're going to look into a book where a man who actually works at the CDC has become a whistleblower along with other people that's saying that Black boys have a greater magnitude of definite damage to their brains, resulting in autism and other things from the MMR vaccine. And so I believe that by the time January gets here, right, there's some things that are coming out about this vaccine, but a lot of these vaccines are being supposedly pushed into next year. So I think the Ultimate Wellness Group family will be armored with enough information to take this vaccine thing serious and to be very, very powerful in our stance, regardless of the decision that we make. If we make a decision to take the vaccine, then you have to live with it. And if we decide not to, we have a lot of evidence for the reason that we came to that conclusion, right? Drew Holly, thank you for coming in, my brother. Erica says also ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has our Black and brown children in cages and has been caught doing illegal hysterectomies to our women. Absolutely. For sure. That is true. We talked about that a little while ago. Betty Thornton, thank you for coming in. And, we wouldn't know anything about that if it wasn't for a person that was bold enough to come out and let us know about the information that she was seeing. Charles X. Moore says, I have the wrong book. My book is blue. Please tell me which book you're talking about, bro. Because if you're talking about this book, your book is not wrong. It's just an updated version. This is the older version. But, I think it was a great read regardless. So let me know if that answers that question. Okay, so let me get to a couple of these questions. And I have a couple of articles I want to show, and then we are going to call it a night. So 35 Esmond Street LLC asks, I want to know your opinion if they try to force vaccinate us with this New World agenda they are trying to implement. Of course, I think they're going to try to force us into vaccination, but I don't necessarily know whether or not it's going to be like, coming door to door, knocking on your door and putting a gun to your head and situations like that. I think, as I have said from the beginning, as I was walking through the community on this Saturday, there's a certain politician. I'm not going to mention her name because I really don't know why some of these people make the decisions that they make. But I know that a lot of times people can be tricked into doing things and they don't necessarily know everything, right? I keep mentioning these philanthropic entities, these Rockefeller corporations, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There are so many of those organizations in our history in this country that put a platter in front of our face as if they were wanting to do something good for us, and it was murder. The Tuskegee experiment was supposedly a platter on something doing good for us, right? There have been so many things that, as I keep saying, that make the Tuskegee experiment pale in comparison, what they've done to some of our people, like the one we talked about not too long ago. I'm forgetting the name right now, where they were taking the children in New York and under the Catholic organizations, and just doing horrible experiments with these young people. So we have to be very careful with what is being purported to our community is good for us. So back to the point, we're walking through the community. They're having a testing area in in CUNY Homes in Houston. And, when you first walk up to it, it's a free food giveaway. But the catch was you had to get tested in order to get the food, right? The good thing for me was that by the time we got there, it had been going on for a while, and it didn't look like a lot of the food had been given away, some of it, but didn't look like. So I think our people are smarter than some of these trickery people think. And so, as we're walking through, the people that were sitting at a test table, hey, you guys want to be tested? Not at all. Wouldn't even consider it. So that's what I think is part of the problem, right? Those people who have gotten tested for whatever reason that they've gotten tested, whether they're ignorant, whether they're trying to protect a family member, whether you have some symptoms and you're afraid, you're living in fear, so you want to know. I'm not knocking anybody in the decisions that you make. But what I am saying is, what do you think the potential is that your name is going to be on that list that they do come and knock on the door if that's what they decide to do? What do you think is going to happen if that's the list that prioritizes the vaccine? And so they don't force you by putting a gun to your head, but they tell you, hey, you potentially could be a spreader of this disease now that it's gotten worse in 2021. So in order to update your license, in order to get your license for what you do in a living, in order to get your certification as a welder, in order to get your passport renewed, in order to fly from this point forward, we're going to have to check your vaccination status. To a certain degree, that's forced vaccination. Your children aren't going to be able to come back to this public school. And so we may be forced into some of those decisions. That's going to be difficult for some people. And I think that is forced. That's a forced reality, because as the book said, if proponents of vaccinations are so sure about their vaccinations, why would you be concerned about those of us who don't want to take a vaccine? Aren't we signing our own death certificate from your perspective? Your vaccine is going to take care of you. And those of us who don't want to take it, we're going to die because of the disease. That should be something that we assess within our own minds, because as this book said, if we read this book, or if you listen to some of the comments that I made, almost every disease that we immunize children for were on a steep decline before the immunization ever came out. So we've never had any information that vaccinations has ever done anything to solve any medical problem or disease. The other thing that this book said over and over and over again, right, is that in a lot of different studies, it was shown that the infection rate went up in those who were vaccinated. So if we're learning this type of information and we have evidence that these things are based in some scientific reality, I'm not saying that they've been proven, but there is some concern of us as a general population that these things could potentially happen, then we have all the right in the world to say no. And my last statement to your question, what I think is an excellent question, is that if enough of us say no, if enough of us are educated, if enough of us support each other, they don't have the ability to force us. So, we have, I think, an opportunity and a responsibility to be educated, and then we have to make the appropriate decision. And I'm just here to tell you all that, I don't come on here and talk strong like this and then have a plan of punking out. I don't plan to take a vaccine no matter what, because of the experiences that I've told you about and, the information and the research that I've done. So I got two of my good friends on here tonight, Drew Holly and Douglas Hargrave. These are two of my friends, very, very close friends. Two of the closest friends that I have up on the show tonight. First of all, thank you, brothers, for coming in. Drew says Gates knew this virus was going to hit in advance and spoke prematurely about the second wave. He sure did. And if you go back and you do some research on Bill Gates and his comments over the last probably 10 to 15 years, he was talking about this major virus that was going to affect billions of people over the planet. How could somebody know something that is unpredictable? Douglas Hargrave, great topic tonight. Thank you, my brother. My brother, appreciate you coming in. Gates' favorite books to read are biochemistry, not computer science. Yeah, they do got a lot of money and a lot of influence, that's for sure. Okay, Charles X. Moore. Yeah, you have the updated and revised edition. Yes, sir. So glad you have a day. Okay, yes. Carolyn Muhammad, Naja Muhammad, the Bean Super Gay. I didn't give you a shout out tonight, but hey, y'all, Sister Naja, that's on Facebook. She is one of the sisters that has the Bean Soup Brigade business where they are making and selling people bean soup around the country. Everybody is talking about how wonderful it is. You all have heard me speak enough about the Navy bean. It has to be in your diet if you want good health. Okay. Sister Queen, look like you came back in. Okay. So the next question was, what was it? Shaolin Soldier, what are your thoughts on the RNA interference with vaccines? Do you think that the dietary lifestyle can help in terms of detoxing or building cellular structures to be stronger? First of all, your first question, what are your thoughts on RNA interference with vaccines? I think the whole process of this RNA vaccine that they're talking about is it's very difficult to describe, right, without going deep into the science, because the way RNA works in conjunction with things that are being transcribed. So, for instance, if I took this book and I was going to, let's say, transcribe it into another language, or just copy the book so that somebody else can have it, right? We don't have a printer or anything like that. I'm just going to copy this book and give it to you so you can read it. Well, the reality is the way that the human body works from a DNA and RNA perspective is that the body would start going through and copying stuff, and RNA would come out of that. So RNA would be like the copy of the book, and then the copy of the book would be taken to a printer, and they present a new book, right? That's the way the body works. And so RNA is like a messenger molecule in between the reality of DNA dictating what is happening in the body. So the second part of your question, when you talk about detoxing and building cellular structures to be stronger, the human body and its original DNA, I don't think we can make the body better or stronger than that original DNA. But we can if a person over time, like over the years, is eating bad food and not taking care of themselves, not getting enough rest, not drinking enough water, not thinking positively, being exposed to a lot of chemicals, their DNA starts to be damaged over the years. That's how you get a person looking old. That's how you get a person that's aging. That's how you get diseases. That's how a body starts to look like it's just not capable anymore, right? So when a person is in that condition, yes, what you're saying is absolutely true. But if we look at DNA from its original perspective, that has the ability to produce a Methuselah, right? That man lived 969 years. A lot of times it's difficult for us to even consider that that's possible because we looking at 40, 50, and 60-year-old people looking like they're falling apart. But imagine the DNA power in a man like Methuselah who lived 969 years. As I spoke of earlier today, at what age did he start balding? Damn sure wasn't 30 or 40, right? Might have been a few hundred years. Maybe he started balding at 700, 800. Maybe he started getting gray hair at 700 or 800. You know, the Quran and the Bible talk about that hoary, that graying of that, you know, astute looking man. But, you know, that in the Bible, when it's talking about these old people, we ain't talking about no 60, 70, 80-year-old person. That's a baby. The Ontological Muhammad teaches us that we learn how to be a man or a woman at 75. And put that in context with a person that's 300, 600, 900. At what point did Methuselah start thinking that he had gained enough knowledge to feel confident that, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to check up out of here? Probably very close to the end, right? If we look at things from the perspective of what DNA really can produce, right? And so all of these things that they're doing with RNA, my brother, I think are experimental. And if you look at HIV probably being one of the first that was a reverse transcriptase, an RNA-based reality, that's when this whole experimentation with all these diseases, these infectious diseases began. HIV, Ebola, bird flu, swine flu, SARS-1, all of these different infections, when you go and you start studying these things, these things don't and are not occurring based in nature. And so I think a lot of times these RNA-based things that they're doing, they have a lot of the alterations that these scientists are doing, right? So we have to be very careful. A lot of times it's difficult for the average everyday person to really understand these things because it does take a lot to understand DNA and RNA and transcription and all these other things in the body. And I pray that I have the ability and have been giving you all the type of information that helps you understand it a little more. Let me know if I answered the question, Brother Shaolin, because if not, then maybe we will have to do a show about that and go a little bit in depth as we're reading this next book so that we can help each other understand it. Leroy says they knew and planned their biowarfare plan, but Allah is the best of planners. That's right. They will not get away with their plan because we believe in a higher power, right? Eighth Electronics. That reminds me of that Indian woman who was the date farmer that you talked about. Yes, sir. Absolutely. I spoke about her today on today's program. You all please go and check it out and let me know what you think. But just for those who may not have heard me tell the story, I read a book called The Conquest of Death after How to Eat to Live changed and started taking me in a different direction. And this man, American doctor, was going around the world looking for what he called old people, right? He approached this woman in India who was a part of a date farm. So she worked on a date farm. So during the time of the year where dates were, abundant, the date farmers gave the date pickers dates as their food. And so she would eat dates during the abundant time of the year. During the time where dates were out of season, she was explaining that, she really didn't have a lot of food. When the doctor met the woman, when he approached her, he looked at her and said that she looked like an American woman about the age of 40. Through an interpreter, he found out that the woman was 180. Yes, I said 180. And she explained to him that during one of those times when it was an off season, she went 90 days without food and developed a third set of teeth. Sure, there's some people going to think I'm crazy, but as I said earlier today, I believe that when I read it, and the things that I've seen over the years come out of the reality of How to Eat to Live, I know that that's true. So, we have to change our perspective on what we think because there's this idea, if you all get a chance, look up the straw man argument, right? Because in this country, there's so many things that as black, brown, and red people that we believe and we think that is not based in science. It's based in traditionally being passed on. Some things that are passed on in traditions are good. Some things that are passed on in traditions are not, right? Like I had a very in-depth conversation with my mom about why she didn't breastfeed me and my brothers, why she, thought that birth control was something good. It's because she was being fed propaganda by the doctors at that time, right? If you go back to the 40s and the 50s, doctors were on television commercials smoking cigarettes and promoting them. So, excuse me. The entity of the medical industry has done a lot of things that are highly questionable. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't be trying to get as much information as we can to try to make sure that we question things so that we make sure we're safe, right? And that's the main reason for us reading the books and but also more important than reading the books is having these type of dialogues so that we all grow in our information, to walk up out of this conversation, to walk out of this program and say, okay, I feel like I'm better able to manage reading articles, listening to the news, having conversations with people, sparking up conversations about this so that more and more people will get the type of information that can allow them to make a good choice to keep them and their family healthy, right? Courtney Silsey Porter, I pray I'm saying your name right. Shaolin Soda said, thank you so much, my brother. Nicely broken down. Well, thank you, my brother. I appreciate the great question as always. Almighty Moreland says, the last person in my family who made it to 100 was 4 generations ago. I feel like it's still possible for me. It sure is, bro. I'm trying to think. You said 24, right? I think you said, yeah, I'm only 24, bro. You should you should start to think at 24, in my personal viewpoint, with some of the information I'm sharing. And if you work hard, you should easily be able to think you could live to 200 and beyond. I think that. Okay, so let's get on that path together. Okay, so a couple of things I want to show you all, and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Okay. These are a couple of articles that my brother Hakeem has shared with me. And it's almost like I got my own dang, what is it? The minister got that the little group that goes out and gets all the information for him. I'm slipping on what it is right now. I get back to that in a second. But this article, I pray that you all can see this okay. Yeah, I see it come up. Merck to buy Veloce Bio for $2.75 billion to bolster oncology pipeline. So, when I look at this article, I just want to show you all how I process this information, right? So I look at that first thing. That's a lot of money. Oncology. Okay. Now, what is this article talking about? You get down in here and it talks about, Merck's stock and the money. And then a little bit further down in the article, it's talking about pioneering work early in the studies, notably on these 2 different type of hematologic malignancies, meaning cancers of the blood, right? Mantle cell lymphoma and diffuse large B cell in lymphoma. Merck's stock has dropped 11.4% year to date. And so, this article has more to do with money than anything about people, right? But the thing that's amazing to me is that, again, going to that straw man argument, somebody mentions something over and over and over and over and over again, and then it becomes something that society has accepted. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was ever proven. It doesn't mean that it is actual scientific. It doesn't mean that it is based in facts. It's just something that was inundated with us over and over and over and over and over again. And then the person who comes with information to disprove what has been said over and over and over again has to go so deep and so hard at trying to disprove it because a falsity has been accepted as common knowledge. And I'm saying that for a very specific reason, because oncology is the aspect of medicine that deals with cancer. And as I've said on this program many, many times, when you look at cancer statistics, most of them are 5, 7, 8, 6 years after treatment. Because there's a large percentage in multiple types of cancers that after 10 years, these cancers come back with a vengeance. So if you have a child who may be a little behind in school and you have financial problems, or you have a car, that you take to a mechanic, you take your child to a learning center, or you take yourself to a doctor, right? and somebody poses you information that's good for you, but in 10 years that car is going to fall apart. In 10 years your child is so illiterate that it can't even function in society. We would really start questioning those things, right? We would question all those entities and whether they were any good. But yet in medicine, we're able to make so much money, and people can buy a company for $2.75 billion to continue to purport, right? To put this plate to society as if being treated with chemotherapy and radiation is really solving people's problems. I've practiced in medicine long enough, and I've seen enough people with cancer to come to the conclusion that I don't believe chemotherapy and radiation is the best for us. The best, in all honesty, is to prevent any type of cancer. So it takes a lot of work. But again, what I'm saying is that vaccines, chemotherapy, a lot of things in this society, especially as Black, brown, and red people that were destroyed and weren't allowed to read for so many years, there's so many things that are presented to us, and it's a straw man argument because it never has been presented to us with facts. It's been presented to us as this continuous cycle of pushing this information, and you don't have anything and don't go and research information to combat that information. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that fits in with what we're talking about, because that's why we're having this book club, for that we could stop that from happening, right? Research team, Magic City, yes, sir. I got Brother Hakeem and Sister Erica have really been great. They send me articles. They keep me up on a lot of information. Of course, I'm always researching, but they really help me with a lot of information. So thank you, Magic City, and thank you, Hakeem and Sister Erica, for giving me articles to to use for the show. Leroy, great information as always, and the sound is excellent tonight, by the way, Doc. Oh, thank you, Sister. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you letting me know that. Trying to get back on track, right? I'm not going to blame anybody. We're going to keep doing whatever we got to do to make sure these shows happen so we can get this news that we can use. Kenny Neck Shabazz, thank you for coming in. Natasha Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Allergy shots, thank you, Sister Priscilla. Yes. Magic City said, is this show weekly or monthly? This show is weekly, every Tuesday. Originally, it was on my Facebook page, the Ultimate Wellness Group, but something happened to that. I think they shut it down. So I'll be working on getting that back together. And then it's on YouTube, the Ultimate Wellness Group. Thank you for coming in today, Magic City Flavors Cooking Lab. I'm going to show this last screen, and then we're going to get to that question from Priscilla, and then we're going to get up out of here, okay? I thank you all for your patience. Thank you all for your interaction. So here is an article that came out within, I think, the last few days. FDA gives, get off the screen. Can't stand when that happens. The FDA gives emergency okay to Lilly's antibody treatment for COVID-19. And so as we go down here and we start looking into some of this information, the name of the drug, you see it right there, bamlanivimab, is a monoclonal antibody, meaning one cloned antibody, right? And it says here, monoclonal antibodies are laboratory-made proteins that mimic the immune system's ability to fight off harmful antigens such as viruses. Now, a lot of people maybe, I don't know how they will be affected, but here's the situation that makes me have concern for our well-being. Look at this last statement in this paragraph right here. We will continue to evaluate new data on the safety and efficacy of bamlanivimab as they become available. So in this article, it talks about, I think it was 345 people that were in the study or something like that. But the point is this, you all, when they start doing these experimentations on, the phases of these trials, they start phase 1 and phase 2 is usually in a laboratory in animals. And then when it gets to phase 3, it is supposedly purported that it was safe in phase 1 and phase 2. And phase 3, you start doing experimentation in certain populations of people. And then while you're in those experimentations with people, if you are literally looking at this medication versus a placebo, and you see that the medication is really helping people a lot more than the placebo, then it's supposed to be the ethical thing for us to stop the experiment and start to put this into the public, right? And so that's what this is saying. It's saying in a short, I should say in a small number of people that they did this in, it showed some promise, right? But now they're going to, this emergency, okay, right? To start increasing the number of people that get it so that we can monitor the safety and the efficacy. So this is just code word for experimentation. And we have to be very careful. And that's why I continue to try to share this information, because I can't remain quiet when I think that my people are going to be in potential harm's way, right? Can you imagine we all live in the same community and we see a car barreling down the highway and we see a child getting ready to run into the street and potentially get hit by that car, and you just sit there silent? Let me watch this happen. No, we're probably going to be running as hard and fast as we can towards that child, hollering at that child, trying to get the attention of the person that's driving down the street, slow them down, whatever we can do. And so that's why I do these shows. That's why I am passionate about it, because, you know, as I spoke earlier, part of it is the reality of me going through this medical education that I paid so much money for all those years, to get to a place in my practice of medicine and realize that, you know, there were a lot of tricks. There was a lot of propaganda. There was a lot of emotional molding of my mind as a person who really wanted to be a physician, really wanted to help people. And so in November of 2020, it's time to stand up, because I don't believe that we have any other opportunity once we have this type of information other than to stand up, share the information, and be as strong as we possibly can, form as much unity as we can so that we can save as many people as we can. Okay. So I pray that you all see that that's what we're trying to do, that that's what we're working on. That's what the book club is about. That's what today's show is about this book club. And I pray that everybody comes in and is a part of it, read, share, and then spread this as far as you can. By the way, before we end the show, please share the show. Tell a few people about it. Hoyle Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Charles Knight says, what are your thoughts on moldy bread and raw milk being a natural inoculation for viruses, and the term vaccines being derived from Latin vacca, cow? Yes, Charles Knight. The first question is, do I believe that moldy bread and raw milk being a natural inoculation for viruses? No, I don't believe that, because moldy bread is a different type of infection, right? That's mold grows in a different way than a virus and a bacteria. None of them can really affect the body when the immune system is strong, as long as we don't get over inundated with any of those infections, right? But, you know, a lot of people say those type of things like you can take a mold and build your immune system against viruses. No, you have to get exposed to a virus in order for your immune system to be able to get a virus. It's very similar to any other aspect of life. Like if we were going car shopping, right? And you, Brother Charles, say, hey, let's go to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. Okay, yeah, let's go do that. Let's check out the cars. We open them up. We look inside. And then somebody says, hey, you don't need to go to the Bentley dealership because you looked inside a Mercedes-Benz. You'd be like, yeah, I looked inside a Mercedes-Benz, but I want to know what the inside of a Bentley looks like. So we're going to go to the Bentley dealership, or we're going to go see what a Porsche looks like, or we're going to go to the Maserati dealership. You see what I'm saying? those are different entities and they have to be evaluated independently. Those are different areas, and the human body reacts to those in a different way. It attacks it in a different way and breaks it down and evaluates it into the nth degree. And so you can't expose the body to mold and it'd be better at fighting a virus. And you can't expose it to a virus and it's going to be better at fighting a bacteria. It has to be exposed to those three entities to know what those three entities are. And then the difference is that you can have a virus like the coronavirus, which is changing. It's forgetting the word right now, but it is manifesting itself and changing different strains in different parts of the world. And so your body can fight the coronavirus and have a complete memory of that one that it did. And then if there's a different strain, if it mutates into something different, your body will probably have a better ability to fight that one, but that one could still potentially make you sick again. You see what I mean? So it's a difference every time that is exposed to something. As it's changing, the immune system has to up its game or change its game or do whatever it is to get this new thing. And yes, from the perspective of, I would say modern medicine, yeah, the Latin vacca. But, you know, as I talked before, when we discussed medical apartheid, Black people came to this country and Black people moved around the world, and we had so many ways to deal with so many different things. The ideology of vaccination did not come from a European ideology. The vacca and that whole perspective from that Latin word and from those European ideologies is the beginning of their reality of vaccinations. And I should say, being able to boost the immune system to fight disease, because that's what we were doing as indigenous people in a lot of different ways and a lot of different cultural things that we used to do. It has been a more recent reality where we're injecting these foreign things into the body and doing it in ways that don't make sense with how the immune system works normally and boosts itself when we're naturally fighting things. So let me know if I answered your question, my brother. I pray that I did. Nadine Muhammad, I thank you for coming in. So that pretty much does it for the show tonight, brothers and sisters. I, again, thank all of you who came in. Still working on all the technical difficulties, but I'm glad that the sound and the video was pretty good tonight. We're going to keep working on getting it better. I'm doing some things with the, the Facebook. So, of course, I'll keep you all up and let you know about that. Everybody that's interested, please get the book. Okay, this is the one that we're currently reading. What is it? Today is the 10th, right? And so we have 20 days left in this month, and we have 30 days in next month, 31 days in next month. So with 173 pages, somebody could do that math for me real quick, or I'll just do the math real quick. 173 pages divided by 50 days. What is that? 1, 2, 3. That's what, about 4 pages a day? I think that's pretty realistic, right? So you all let me know if you think that's realistic. We can read this book and then we'll talk about this book, review this book like we reviewed this book today on January the 5th. And of course, continue going into what the vote suggested today. Eighth Electronics, yes, medical apartheid is what we read. What is this, November? I think we read that in August and September and October. Absolutely, bro. You get a chance, check out the program that I did. I'll have to do a comment for you and let you know which one, where we actually had a discussion and went over medical apartheid. But thank you. I think that was great. Charles X. Moore said it was great. Yes. Faith Brooks, thank you for coming in. Allergy shots. Okay, so when we are dealing with allergy shots, I have to tell a quick story and then go into the answer, all right? So when I first met my wife, when we met and we were courting, she said, I'm allergic to strawberries, peaches, pineapples, oranges, nectarines, strawberries. She told me all these foods, and I was like, my response to her was, excuse me, why would God make you allergic to some of the best foods on the planet Earth? Because some of those foods I just mentioned are some very high quality, beautiful foods, right? And so once I started working with her with those foods and we were getting organic food, she stopped having these breakouts. I mean, she would swell up and get hives, lips would get really swollen, her eyes itching all over. And she was so-called allergic to these foods, right? These doctors had done those skin tests and all that kind of stuff and said, you're allergic to this food, you're allergic to that food, allergic to this. So please stay away from those foods. The thing that I have come to the conclusion and to some degree proven in so many people is that you're not allergic to the food. You're allergic to the pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers that are in those foods because those foods are absorbing those things. There have been plenty studies around this country and around the world that have proven this. They're going into strawberries and oranges and watermelons and broccoli and asparagus and many other foods, and they're finding evidence of the actual chemicals as well as byproducts of those chemicals. So when it comes to the ideology of allergy testing, the reason why I have seen something different is because I can't just give in to the fact that this person is allergic to something that God makes so abundant. Like I've had people come to me and say, I was tested and my test says that I'm allergic to pollen. How could that be? There's not a plant that can grow without pollen. There's not a food that can be produced without pollen. So you mean to tell me that the God that you serve, that I serve, that we're trying to serve would make you allergic to something that's abundant on the planet? You mean to tell me that some of these people that come and say, my test says I'm allergic to grass. Man, there's grass everywhere. In nature, all over this world, except maybe in just a few places, there's grass that grows. You're allergic to grass? Really? So it's hard for me to accept things like that. I start asking a lot of questions and I go start delving and researching and doing my research. And I think that it's a system that's being put together. And we as physicians and people in the medical community are fed information, and we don't go research and we don't go try to get underneath and behind and what is the foundation of this information that I'm being given. And so here it is that you'll go to a doctor and they put all these shots in your back and come back and you're allergic to all these different things. Same thing that happened to my wife. But now she's eating all of those foods. The only one that we haven't been able to solve is pineapples. Doesn't make a difference if she finds it organic or not. She still has some issues. And so specifically your question, sister, was about what do I think about them, right? Let me go back and specifically look at your question because I want to make sure that I answer it. Because I know I just said a lot, but I want to make sure I'm answering your question. What do you think about allergy shot? Why do doctors recommend those? Okay. Yeah. So doctors recommend them because it's purported that that is how you find out whether a person is allergic. But the problem is that if I do an allergy shot on you in some whatever capacity that I do that, and I don't make my test specific enough to test for the pesticides, herbicides, chemical fertilizers, and other potential contaminants, are you really allergic to that food? You see what I'm saying? Because they use typically certain chemicals, certain types of pesticides, certain herbicides, and certain chemical fertilizers with certain types of foods. So the citrus fruits, the lemons, the oranges, the limes, the grapefruits, there's a certain type of chemical that they use in those. Why? Because they have thicker skin, right? And then there's a different type of chemical that they use a lot of times on the berries. And then there's a different type that they use on the bean crops and a different type on the vegetable crops. Some of those can be the same, but a lot of times they're different in different types of crops. And so unless we're doing testing on all of that to figure out what the person truly is allergic to, it's easy to put it off on a food, but your test is not specific enough to give that actual fact. So let me know, sister, if I answered your question. I believe I did. I think doctors just do what's suggested, what helps them make more money. But a lot of times doctors don't do much reading, don't do much investigation after they finish medical school. After that, they just follow along with whatever helps them make money or follow along with whatever a pharmaceutical company tells them. because, there's not a whole lot of studying and learning going on after that. So please let me know if I answered your question. Erica says, lastly, vote, vote, vote. Everybody let me know. Would you rather us in January do How to Eat to Live, that monumental, beautiful book right there? Or would you like us to start the year off with a mental health book? That's the voting that we're doing today. Erica Perez says, I had that experience with fruits and vegetables too. When I got the organic version, I had no problems. It's the pesticides and herbicides in the fruit and vegetables as well as earth. Yes, it's causing a lot of damage, doing a lot of problems to a lot of people. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I dropped something today. I think it's on my Facebook as well. But, I was just driving down the street and I saw this cow and I just decided to stop. And as I was doing the video, I was just thinking about the fact that, animals don't stop and call a veterinarian, right? They don't go to some grocery store or some drug store to get something when they have a problem. They stick with what's in the earth. You know what I mean? And so we have to do the same thing, and we have to be protective of the earth. And that's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in this monumental book, How to Eat to Live, that we have to get our own land. We have to grow our own food if we truly want the best of health, because we really can't trust people that are commercializers. To some degree, we can't fault the commercializers because there's a lot of mouths to feed, but we have to take that reality back and have control of it. Almighty Moreland, see you next week. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you. And please let me know if you do a little research into that prostate program. Let me know what you think. Shaolin Soldier says, I've always wondered if the peanut allergy stems from vaccinations. Babies who haven't had any food exposure develop allergies. Perhaps it's from injection. This would be an interesting find. Yes, sir. And there was a time when I believe I'm gonna have to go. That's a very important question, bro. I'm gonna go back and do my research. I'm not gonna make a comment on that, but I'm gonna research that and give an answer next week. So you all come on back and get that information, because there is something about peanuts and vaccinations from back in the day. But I got to go remind myself before I make any comments. I won't forget. I'll get to that next week. Priscilla B says, yes, great information on allergy shots in the entire show, doctor. Well, thank you, sister. I appreciate the great question. I see Z Hakeem gave his, or she, or he, I'm not sure, gave their vote. Christine Crowder, great information. Thanks, Dr. Akili. Thank you, ma'am, for coming in. So that's the show for tonight, brothers and sisters. I appreciate you again. I pray that the Ultimate Wellness Group serves as a foundation for good information, empowering information that can help save and change your life. I pray that you all continue to come back, share the show, continue to tell other people about it, continue to tell people about the book club, and don't forget to get your book, okay? Starting this tonight, 4 to 5 pages a day, and we'll be discussing it January 5th. Remember, in a world like we live in, it's very difficult to have good health, so make sure you work hard, right? Let's not wait until January to start talking about these New Year's resolutions. Let's start doing some of the things today, tomorrow, that we know we need to be doing. And then by the time January gets here, we already have 3 or 4 new things that we're doing, and we already see the result of that. So work hard on your health. That's the only way we can have health, good health in these days and times. Please limit your inundation of the television. Go to some site and do your investigation of what's going on with coronavirus, and come away from it when you're ready. And please, everybody, start your day with God. Start your day in the morning with prayer or, meditation, whatever you like to do spiritually and based on your spirituality. But, maybe not the radio, maybe not the television. Let your day start with good information and spiritual information with your connection to the Creator. And let's see how this will change our lives and help us become more unified in our effort to make it through these tough times and come out on the other side better. So you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. I pray to see you all next week, and take care of yourself. Peace.